9:04 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Welcome into the Chris Hand Show. Hope you're having a fantastic morning. I feel like Vivek Ramaswamy's having a good morning. Masterclass at that debate last night. I wasn't sure I wanted to watch it. And I got there a little late, and I realized Vivek showed up ready to just set the world on fire. Did you see any of this, Mac?
Watched a couple of clips. Man, he looked like he was just out for blood.
He was.
Savage.
And listen, I still don't think he's going to be the nominee. I don't think anybody on that stage is. But he seems to be making a case for 2028. Or at the very least, he made a name for himself last night. Now, what they'll tell you is that, the debate-defining moment, right? They'll tell you the debate-defining moment was Nikki Haley calling Vivek Ramaswamy scum when he brought up her daughter, who's an adult, being on TikTok. Now, at the last debate, or the first debate, one of them, I don't know, they all melt together, because it's just a bunch of lame neocons. But at one of the last debates, Nikki Haley roasts Vivek for being on TikTok. Well, at this debate, Vivek says, hey, your daughter's on TikTok too. And Nikki Haley calls him scum. And everybody's like, ooh, slay queen. But, they'll say that this was the defining moment. This is what the fake news is telling you is the defining moment from the debate last night.
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which was about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Your adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth.
You're just
the easy
scum.
answer.
You're just scum. and one of the things he points out, he goes, he's getting booed. He's like, yeah, there are her supporters propping her up because the donor class is the ones that buy those seats at the debate. Those seats are extremely expensive. So the donors are there. And the donors sit in the front row. The donors like Nikki Haley for whatever reason. Probably because the donors, work at Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, and they like war. But I think it's fair game. First of all, her daughter's an adult. Second of all, you want to blast somebody over TikTok. All right. Clean your room before you change the world, right? Isn't that what Jordan Peterson says? Well, Nikki Haley, I think she got roasted. She wasn't ready for that. And people point at that and say, that's the debate-defining moment. I mean, fake news all over the place is saying, Ron DeSantis won, Nikki Haley won. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't really tell the difference between the two of them. Besides the fact that they were both wearing heels and both put on a fake smile every time they were awkwardly mentioned. I can't tell the difference between Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. I just can't. So they'll say, Ron DeSantis won. Nikki Haley won. I'm sorry. Vivek Ramaswamy won. 100%. And the real debate-defining moment was Vivek Ramaswamy's open. Now, I'm going to play this in full. It's about a minute and a half. But what Vivek does here, I don't think has ever been done on a debate stage before.
Swamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It's a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. Do you think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made-up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Roberts.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to
That's how we
Governor
unite this country.
Christie. Why
Mr. Ramaswamy, your time is up. You've done enough. They tried to basically give him the Tulsi Gabbard treatment the rest of the night. If you recall from the 2016 Democrat primaries, Tulsi Gabbard goes in and she rips Kamala Harris to shreds in Detroit. And from that point on, she gets no camera time, no questions. And it felt like the same thing happened to Vivek Ramaswamy last night. But the points that this guy made, yeesh, whoa. He just laid into Ronna McDaniel. Absolutely laid into her, scorched earth. The same Ronna McDaniel who just does nothing for the Republican Party. The same Ronna McDaniel who's the niece of Mitt Romney. She's the one in charge of the RNC. They're worried about they've already been announcing the fourth debate that's coming. Do we need another debate? Did we need the debate last night? Let's be perfectly honest. None of this is going to hurt Trump's massive lead. But this was a defining moment for Vivek Ramaswamy. It just was. He points at the fact that if we had real moderators, we could bring new people into the Republican Party. Nailed it. If we had Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson moderating that debate last night, that would have been must-see TV across the nation.
I would have tuned in.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Why wouldn't you? And to be fair, he was absolutely right. Now, if you looked at he said we'd have 10 times more viewers. Well, if you look at the live stream views, and granted, this is just live stream views, but the Post-Millennial put this on Twitter. Live stream views in the middle of the debate, they had 63,500 watching. Now, to put that into perspective, Trump's holding a rally, just a few miles away in Florida, and he had 126,000 people watching one of his live streams. So,
Steven Crowder just did the covenant stuff, broke all that news with the leak on the manifesto. Over 200,000 people watching his live stream.
Yeah. Did they ask any questions about the manifesto last night? No. Nope.
Didn't even think about that.
They literally spent the first 40 minutes talking about war. And everybody's in agreement like, bomb, Iran. All right. Pretty cool. But Vivek Ramaswamy, unbelievable. Going after Ronna McDaniel. Calling her out for her failures while she's sitting in the front row. The absolute savage. Now, there's reports that Ronna McDaniel was irate. She was probably losing her mind. I wish that I could have just been hanging out with her the night so I could, really salt mine a little bit. We could have we could have mined so much salt from McDaniel. She allegedly called him an a-hole. He's a total a-hole, just screaming in the crowd. He won't get a cent from us. And that's the problem. It's personal feelings over politics in the RNC. And, if Orange Man's bad, they're going to start yelling from the rooftop, Brown Man bad when it comes to Vivek Ramaswamy. He is now one of the enemies. He is. There's no way around it. But that wasn't the only thing that was unreal when he's going after Ronna McDaniel, when he's going after Kristen Welker. Poor Kristen Welker. I don't think she was ready for that at all. The fake smile that she had when the camera panned back to her after he's like, you pushed the Russia collusion hoax for years. For years. So funny. And she did push the Russia collusion hoax, Kristen Welker. From NBC, the new Meet the Press host. She pushed it for years.
President Trump facing a blizzard of headlines related to the Russia investigation and a bombshell report by the New York Times that the FBI opened up a counterintelligence investigation into Mr. Trump in 2017 amid concerns he wittingly or unwittingly was working for Russia.
Russia! Ah! so dumb. But these media companies never apologize for that. They never own up to that. They just move along. Very well, moving on. That's how they handle it. But there were more moments. When Israel comes up, and this is a long one too, but I feel like it's needed to be said. Israel comes up and, Vivek says very, very well, Israel can defend themselves. They don't want our help. And, we basically should stay out of it. But he starts pointing at the neocons and the warhawks in the Republican Party.
Mr. Ramaswamy, any daylight between you and the candidates we just heard on this issue on what you would tell the Prime Minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the Prime Minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border.
All right, that part I thought was pretty cheesy. You smoke your terrorist, I'll smoke mine. Smoke them if you got them. So that was all right. And when that answer got that far, I was like, okay.
Yeah, all right.
That felt like Ron DeSantis, like, they'll be stone cold dead. But it was after he got through the cheese that he hit the meat of the subject and went full scorched earth.
That's his responsibility. This is our responsibility. That's how we move forward. But I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt. And Joe Biden,
I'll tell you one thing. When he says sending people my age to die, that hit my soul. Because my friends were over there in the Middle East. And what were those wars for? What were they for? What did we accomplish?
and Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country.
Roasted.
The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first, or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right,
In
Mr.
which case we've got two of them on stage
Mr.
tonight.
Ramaswamy, thank you.
Oh,
Did you hear the last part?
yeah.
In which case we got two of them.
Shots fired.
Shots fired indeed.
Wow.
He came out with an absolute game plan to wreck the Republican rhino establishment, and he did. He did. I was beyond impressed with Vivek Ramaswamy last night. Really was. Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels.
In that case, we've got two.
I felt
That's pretty good.
I felt like the meme of the kids watching like the rap battle, like, oh
Yeah, exactly.
Ah!
Well, him going after Nikki Haley and the money thing. I mean, that's huge.
Nikki Haley is a war hawk. This is why she's even on the stage.
Bingo.
0930 says, but nobody watched the debate. Fair. I watched it so you didn't have to.
It's fair.
I mean, it's fair. I forgot the debate was even happening. I don't even think I mentioned it on the show yesterday.
I don't think we did.
I don't think I did. Oh, that's tonight? Yikes.
Oh, shoot.
Yikes. I mean, Vivek didn't forget. Vivek was ready. He was absolutely ready for this. When Ukraine came up, he again goes scorched earth.
Senator Scott. Mr. Ramaswamy, are you persuaded by President Zelensky's urgent new plea? Where do you stand on more funding?
I'm absolutely unpersuaded.
Nope. Hard pass.
And I'm actually enjoying watching the Ukraine Hawks quietly, delicately tiptoe back from their position as this thing has unwound into a disaster.
And they have been tiptoeing back from their position. 4624 texting and said, have you changed your mind on Vivek? No, not really. No.
So even after that, still no.
I think that for whatever reason, he was ready. He had his talking points. He was prepped to go in and do just this. I'm still not sold on him as a presidential candidate. And I'm not sure anything will sell me on Vivek as a presidential candidate. That being said, he went in there and did work last night. He put in solid minutes. I would like him in Trump's cabinet in some shape or form. Charlie Kirk on Twitter is floating the idea of Vivek for the RNC chair, taking over Ronna McDaniel's spot. And you know what? Something like that I could absolutely get behind because he's young. He understands social media. He gets the algorithm game. And we need that kind of stuff. I feel like the only thing Ronna McDaniel has done in the Republican Party is she's stepped up digital a little bit. The RNC research account that they run is solid. They do stay on top of that, but they really only focus on Joe Biden's failures. That Twitter account wasn't doing anything in the races in Virginia, in Kentucky, in Ohio. They weren't really hyper-focused in areas that we could have used them. But there's more from Vivek. So no, I'm not sold on him as a presidential candidate still. But we can all look at what he did last night and say, thank you. More audio from Vivek Ramaswamy, plus your takes on the debate. If you got a thought, I'd love to hear it. 615-737-9986. Todd texted in. Todd's here. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Todd!
Starts at 9. He says, sounds like he said what needed to be said. And for that, we thank him. 921. It's Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. I did the thing again yesterday. I turned the heat on in the morning to get the chill out of the air, and then later on in the afternoon, it was hot upstairs, so I turned on the AC. I'm making my HVAC unit work double time. If you're doing the same thing and it's not performing up to par, you may need an HVAC guy. And I'm Chris Hand here for Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. If you need a guy, I know a guy. It's Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling. They're a small company, but they bring big service and big results. And you can trust Jeff and his crew to do what's right every single time because they prove it every single time. Now, if your AC or heat is on the fritz right now, this is the guy to call. If you've already had somebody come in and look at it and they say you need to replace your system, call Jeff for a second opinion. Seriously. Because the other guys are going to pressure you to replace your system because they make more money that way. Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling, they're just going to tell you to do the right thing. And they'll walk you through every option and scenario so you can make an informed decision. Now, if that means replacing a part so that way you can get get a couple more years out of your system, they'll do that for you as well. But if you do need to replace the whole unit, well, Efficient offers up to 18 months same as cash financing on that next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net for more, efficienthvac.net, or call 615-784-4424.
New charges are possible for a suspect with a violent criminal past now that a victim has died. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're going over what happened at the debate last night with Vivek Ramaswamy going full scorched earth.
And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation?
Yikes.
Answer the question. Go.
There's a knockout blow. It's 9:29 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Bobby and Dixon, I see you on the line. I'll take your call next. Plus, more reaction from the debate, more audio from Vivek Ramaswamy. Believe it or not, he has more scorched earth moments that we have to share with you. But in the meantime, Ken Weaver standing by with the latest headlines on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"9:30 on the dot this Thursday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Nashville, very sad news to report about 18-year-old Belmont student Jillian Ludwig. Metro Police say she has died after getting shot on Tuesday while out for a walk near the campus. Now we wait to see if the charges change for the suspect who is due in court this hour. Police say Shaquille Taylor admitted Tuesday to shooting at a car near where Ludwig was walking, and that she was struck by a bullet in the head. Israel-Hamas war, Hamas signaling it's open to a hostage deal, but wants a full ceasefire. But the families of the more than 200 hostages say they're getting tired of waiting. Rachel Goldberg's son, one of them.
It is a long, long time for families not to sleep, to be in a frantic state of fear and terror and trauma. And that's where we are. That's our life.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it.
No, but I would probably watch that. They would definitely bring in more viewers.
Yeah, they would.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN 937. My name is Chris Hand. Thanks for joining us. Mac Morey, Ken Weaver here as well. Listen, one of the super texters brought up a great point. 1749 said, now how many viewers or listeners does one episode of Rogan get, to put that into perspective? How many is it?
So we
Mac?
looked it up, 11 million per episode for Rogan. And then I said, well, Rogan just had Musk on. How about that? 42 million people watch that.
This is one of the biggest issues with the Republican Party. Like, they're too old to get it. They just don't get it. They don't. And if you want to bring in new eyeballs to what you have to offer, yeah, Tucker, Elon, are you kidding? Joe Rogan as moderators? Who wouldn't want that?
And I think they'd do it.
I'm sure
I think they would do it.
Why wouldn't they?
That's a good point.
It would be unbelievable. And I would be for it.
I bet Trump would get in it then.
I bet you he
True.
would.
That's true.
I bet you he would. Could you imagine Joe Biden doing a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast?
Oh, that'd be great.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why RFK is polling so well with younger viewers. Again, his strategy is to be the podcast president. He's going to where the young voters are, and that's on these podcasts. Like, what did the views on the RFK Joe Rogan podcast get? I'm sure that was up there close to the same numbers that Elon got, because people want to hear from RFK Jr., and he's going to where they are. And it's a good strategy. It's a strategy that Nikki Haley's not really following. Tim Scott's not following. Chris Christie's not following. Their strategy is just more war and appease the donor class. That's their strategy. It's crazy. But I would sign up. Tucker, Joe Rogan, Elon as moderators, please. Now, they already announced the next debate, and they're saying Megyn Kelly's going to be one of the moderators. Yay. They do a good job faking enthusiasm.
Yeah, that was really good. Nice. Yay.
Woo. Woohoo. Super dope. It is super dope. Let's go to Bobby and Dixon. He's been holding for a minute. Thank you, Bobby. You got a thought on the debate. What's up, Bobby?
Well, two things. I mean, you played the clip that I like the best out of that whole debate with Kristen Welker, because I can't stand that little snarky, evil smile she's always got.
Oh, my gosh. Who had the worst fake smile last night? Was it Kristen Welker or was it Ron DeSantis?
Every time she's on NBC News or anything, she's always looking like, boy, I got you. You know, I can't stand her. And when Vivek just wore her out, she was sitting there, like you said, like a deer in the headlights. You know, just she didn't know what to say. I thought that was hilarious. I was rolling.
Yeah, it's, your time is up, Mr. Ramaswamy. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, she tried cutting back in and taking it over, but he laid it bare.
I mean, it was.
I loved it.
It was something to see. Does this change your mind on who you would vote for president?
I mean, they all had some good things and they all had some bad things, but I guess I'd probably have to go with Trump because he's the leader, and I don't want to waste a vote on somebody that isn't going to make it.
I'm with you. I feel like last night, if anything, was an audition for 28 for Ramaswamy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Bobby. Thanks so much. 615.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man. 615-737-9986 if you want to tune in. I'm getting a lot of texts asking how White Lizzo did.
Yeah.
He did okay, actually, to be honest with you. There were some points that Christie made where I was like, okay, he seems like one of the more sane individuals on the stage. When he's talking about being in New Jersey after 9/11 and how they dealt with anti-Semitism and how they dealt with Islamophobia, I was like, all right, cool. Like, he actually had like real things to say. He said he went to every mosque in New Jersey and said, listen, if you follow the rules and you follow the law, we'll protect you under the law. And kind of quelled a lot of the people that were upset in that area on both sides. He would go to synagogues, he would go to mosques. I honestly I wasn't out of all the jokes that were on the stage last night. I didn't think Chris Christie was the biggest joke. That being said, White Lizzo, probably the best nickname that could ever have been given to him. That was on Mandis's show. A listener sent him that. White Lizzo. Absolutely hilarious. Vivek, though, he goes after the moderators. He goes after Ronna McDaniel. He has that epic long open, but he does also go at Ukraine and what we're doing in Ukraine. And I thought this was unreal as well, and he nailed it.
The first half of this race, I was the only person standing for it. Now they're actually quietly coming around to being more cautious, as they should. Level with the American people here. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties. It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. More facts for you that you won't hear from the mainstream in either party or the mainstream media. The regions of Ukraine that are occupied by Russia right now in the Donbass, Luhansk, Donetsk. These are Russian-speaking regions that have not even been part of Ukraine since 2014, that other people probably couldn't name those provinces for you.
Facts.
Those are the hard facts. And so to frame this as some kind of battle between good versus evil, don't buy it. And I'd like the likes of the sharpest of the war hawks on Ukraine, Nikki Haley, to have some accountability and answer. Do you want to use U.S. taxpayer money to fund the banning of Christians? That is actually what's happening. They're using the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. They have banned them. The Ukrainian parliament just did this last week, supported by our dollars. And I think you owe it to the American people, Nikki, to at least this one time at least condemn.
Thank you. That's time.
At least to
Mr.
condemn
Ramaswamy,
their
thank
banning
you.
of Christians.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
or else
thank
we're
you.
talking out of both sides
Mr.
of our mouth here.
Ramaswamy, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Thank you. Thank you. Please stop spreading truth and facts and embarrassing the other candidates, sir. Please. Now, Nikki Haley gets just lambasted for being a war hawk. Now, she's personally offended when you bring up the fact that her daughter is on TikTok. Oh, how dare you keep my daughter's name out your mouth, scum. But when it comes to sending your sons and daughters over to foreign countries to fight in a war, Nikki Haley would be all for it. I think what Vivek Ramaswamy brought up there is so solid when he talks about the regions in Ukraine that Russia's controlling being Russian-speaking regions. Yes, the entire war has really just been a land grab to get them to their water port there. And Vivek Ramaswamy says the things that we've all been talking about, but none of the neocons will address. I liked it. I thought it was great. Everybody was tweeting me, joking around, saying he's hooked up to based AI. He's been Neuralinked into the based AI. Again, a lot of people are asking, do you trust Ramaswamy now? Not really. That doesn't mean that I can't appreciate what he did last night for, Republicans in general. And who knows, maybe Ramaswamy has turned over another leaf, a new leaf. Crazy things happened over the pandemic. You saw people that had been full-blown liberals before turn into hardcore conservatives. We all saw it on social media through the pandemic and the election and what happened after the fact. It red-pilled quite a lot of people. So maybe he has just swallowed a whole bottle of red pills. He was definitely dishing out the red pills last night. Denise in Nashville, you have a comment on the debate. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Denise?
Hello. Nikki Haley always references her children when she speaks about her Social Security plan. So I guess you can do it sometimes, but not other times.
Only when it's beneficial.
On her Social Security, I am curious, and I hope someone can help me understand what she's talking about here. Social Security depends on the revenue flow from all workers to retirees. And she's talking about 20-somethings no longer possibly means tested, in other words, guaranteed any receipt of benefits. So she's going to sell to them a program whereby they pay 12.5%, half of it paid by them, half of it paid by their employer for them, 12.5% annual taxation on most young people's chunk of their salary, in addition to their marginal tax rate. And then 40 years later, here comes the perversion. If you do well in life, you'll be means tested out of your benefits. And it's not going to be Warren Buffett and Bill Gates who are X'd out. It's going to be anybody who's really been prudent, saved, invested, who now has a retirement income. And so they won't be getting the benefit that they paid into for 40 years. Is that what she's saying? Is that what she's trying to sell? Is that anybody going to find that either fair or non-perverse coming from a Republican? So do well in life and you'll be denied the benefits into which you paid for 40 years. Do poorly, mismanage your life, and you'll be taken care of by the government to the grave.
Yeah, I mean,
is this the right message from a Republican?
I don't think it's the right message, and I do think something needs to be done with Social Security. For me, I'm 35. Mac is 25. Mac, do you ever think you're going to get Social Security?
No.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to get Social Security either. So I feel like, at least for our age group, like we feel like that ship has already sailed for us.
Well, then you are paying your marginal rate plus the 6.25 that you pay and the 6.25 that your employer pays for you to get a benefit. You're paying that. That's your marginal rate every year. What you currently pay plus 12.5%, because if your employer didn't have to pay it for you, who may not ever get it, and you've decided right now that you're not, then he would be giving that to you. So basically it's a 12.5% tax plus your marginal rate, not to mention all the other levels of taxation we have. This is another welfare program. They're turning it into a welfare program. I don't know why we're fighting the communists around the world. Why don't we just, admit that we're trying to do a better plan of creating a welfare state? Like we haven't been marching in that direction already for most of my life, and I'm 75.
Yeah,
so,
Denise, the communists are already here, you know?
Exactly. And the Republicans are helping, light the way.
Yeah.
They're with the miner's lamp lighting the way.
Yep.
Oh, my God. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate the call, and I'm with you. I get it. And listen, I don't like paying that tax. I don't think we're ever going to see any benefit from it. Like, are we going to see Social Security?
No.
Like,
come on.
I feel like that ship sailed decades ago for us.
Yeah, no, I've never even realistically thought that in my adult life, that I'd get that.
No, and I honestly haven't either. I don't know. Does anybody out there in our age range,
Well, boys, I'll make sure Gen X leaves you some.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, man.
See, I don't mind kicking in so that way Ken lives comfortably.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Me and Mac will be in squalor, but we'll feel good. We'll feel good knowing that Ken's taken care of. I don't. When they started talking about Social Security last night, I was like, yeah, not happening, guys. I'm never gonna get that. I'm getting text now. Jeremy, I'm 46, pushing 47. Zero expectation of Social Security. Yep. 5829 says, laugh about it. It's ridiculous. We never see the money, and plus what our parents have paid in their whole life. They only get a fraction of it. What is it? You can't even get it until you're 72 or something? Hell, half of us should be dead by then. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's up to 67 now.
Jeez. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't see any of that money coming my way. It's definitely not coming Mac's way. My kids,
yeah, that's
definitely.
Right.
My kids absolutely aren't going to be getting any of it.
No.
It's sad, but that's the reality of the world we live in. Dean and Scott, I see you guys hang on the line. Hang out with us. I'll get to your calls next. It is 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were just talking about Social Security, and I have no realistic expectation that I will ever see Social Security payments from the government. It's Chris Hand for Paul Winkler Inc. And because I have zero expectation of those Social Security checks giving me a lifeline, I had to take my financial future and security into my own hands. And I'm so grateful that I linked up with Paul Winkler and Paul Winkler Inc. to do it. Now, because Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required, I got to tell you I'm paid every time this commercial airs. But that's not why I decided to become a client. I decided to become a client because, like I said, I have no realistic expectation of ever seeing a Social Security check. So my financial security is on me. So I had to get educated and I had to get a plan. Paul provided me with both of those. Now, their investment education is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. And one of the best things about it is they can explain it to a guy like me to understand. And I am so grateful for that. Now, if you don't have a financial plan, you got to link up with Paul and his team because they don't do anything on commission. This is one of my biggest selling points on Paul and his team. It's one of the things I respect the most. With nothing done on commission, you can be sure that the advice and decisions they're helping you make are for your benefit, not theirs. It is unbelievable peace of mind. You should check these guys out. Every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience, and you can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest because that experience equals confidence. So talk to one of his team members today. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950.
My name is Jessica Robertson, and I was like him, addicted to more. I remember things really spiraled out of control for me and him both. And we had hit rock bottom. I couldn't even function enough to keep a job. I was so isolated. He was here 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks' time, the difference that this program had made, that God had made in his life, and I just remember I wanted that. I wanted that too. I was able to heal and reset. I had a great counselor, great staff members. The love of God is all in this place. And that's what's helped me. And seeing people walk through those doors at first just broken, just like I was. And then a few months later, get to see that light come back on in them. I know that's God working in them.
All right, got a traffic issue on the North Loop downtown. The off-ramp is partially blocked. That is the 65 northbound off-ramp to 24. New charges now possible for a suspect with a violent criminal past now that a victim has died in Nashville. These stories and more coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were talking about how at the debate last night, Social Security comes up, and we think it's a joke. That they're even talking about it because Mac, myself, we don't think we're ever going to get Social Security. I feel like that ship sailed decades ago. Let's go to Dean in Columbia. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Dean? You have a comment on Social Security. Yo, Dean. Dean.
Hey, Mac. How are you?
Hey, what's up? It's Chris.
Good. Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. Hey, I like your show even better than Matt's, but don't tell him that.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell him that during our crossover break. I can't not tell him.
I've made several presentations to industry that I participate in, and 20 years ago, I made the comment that more people believed in aliens than believed that they would get Social Security. And that's the truth. And that's been over and over. So that's 20 years ago. The second thing is the young lady was complaining about the 6.5%, 6.25%, 12.5% tax. That's the way they structured it almost 100 years ago. It's never been different. They've upped the numbers a little bit, but it's always been that way. We pay well over 50% of our income in taxes when you stack it all up. And I got to run.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Dean. I remember a time in this country when a T on tax was pissing people off. Anybody else remember that? It's weird. Also, he said more people believe in aliens than they believe in getting their Social Security checks. I agree.
We're going to wind up just getting participation ribbons.
Congratulations. We took money out of your check. It is 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Also, to the aliens point, maybe they're just time travelers. Could be. Ken Weaver's waiting in the weeds. He's got the latest headlines on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories this Thursday morning. There is some rain falling in West Tennessee. Some of those changes headed our way. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Nashville, very sad news to report about 18-year-old Belmont student Jillian Ludwig. Metro Police say she has died after she was shot on Tuesday out for a walk near the campus. Now we wait to see if the charges change for the suspect who is due in court this morning. Police say Shaquille Taylor admitted Tuesday to shooting at a car near where Ludwig was walking, but she was struck by a bullet in the head. Channel 4's Ryan Breslin says today isn't the first time Shaquille Taylor has been before a judge.
We know that Taylor has a lengthy criminal background that includes charges for vehicle theft, robbery, handgun possession, and multiple aggravated assaults. Taylor's most recent aggravated assault charge was in May of this year. The district attorney's office could not prosecute Taylor, saying the case was dismissed and Taylor was released from custody because he was found incompetent to stand trial. Even though he was deemed incompetent for mental health reasons, doctors that reviewed his case say he did not meet the standards for involuntary commitment to a mental health facility.
Yeah, Jillian Ludwig graduated from Wall High School in New Jersey in June, and she was studying music business at Belmont. She is survived by two younger brothers and her parents, Matt and Jessica. Well, a new weight loss drug is now in the mix and is expected to hit the shelves soon. But ABC News medical contributor Dr. Jennifer Ashton explains it's only for a specific group of patients.
It is for people who are overweight with at least one associated obesity comorbid medical condition. It is not for people who want to lose, a couple of pounds.
It's called Zepbound, and some recent studies suggest it could lead to more weight loss than similar drugs, Wegovy and Ozempic. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee. Right at home in the woods of Tennessee. Right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
.05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've kind of been going off on a tangent at the fact that at the Republican debate last night, they started talking about Social Security. And for me, in my age group, I'm 35. That's a tune-out. It's a tune-out. When I was in high school, I figured out that I probably wasn't going to get Social Security checks. It just seems like a weird question to ask. Me and Mac were talking off the air. Why are they even asking it? Probably because they know young people aren't tuning into the debate. One of the points that Vivek Ramaswamy made was, if you want to bring more eyeballs in here to our party, you want to bring more people under the conservative umbrella, give us some real moderators. Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
Like, bring some people to the table that would ask hard questions. And one of the things I think is interesting is you bring in Tucker, you bring in Joe Rogan, you bring in Elon Musk. I don't think that the candidates would be able to skirt questions the same way that they do with Lester Holt. And Lester Holt, Kristen Welker, they're not friendly by any stretch of the imagination, but they still let these politicians get away with, hey, tell us what you do with China. Well, I think China's bad, but the real issue is the border. Border.
Yeah.
I hate that stuff. I don't think Tucker would let them get away with it.
Deflect. Exactly. They'd hold them accountable.
And furthermore,
maybe that's why they're not there.
Like, I don't think it doesn't need to be just, quote unquote conservatives. If you gave me Joe Rogan and Joy Reid, I would take it. And I think that a lot of people would watch that. You do Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow, I would be fine with that. I think a lot of people would watch that. A lot.
Yeah, I actually think that'd be good if you had Tucker, Rachel, and Joe, because Joe's kind of that middle.
Yeah.
And you had either side. I mean, that's what we want.
Or give me Jordan Peterson and I don't know, a smart Dem, if they can find one.
If they can find one.
I don't know.
It'd take a while.
Who would it be for smart Dems? I don't know. But on the Social Security question, it was like, that was a tune-out for me. It was a tune-out. Like, oh, okay. Yep, your target demo is much older. This question probably does mean a lot to a lot of people. I understand that. But for me, I felt like it was a waste of time. Looking at the super text line, it seems like a lot of you guys felt like it was a waste of time too. 3886, I'm 47, gave up on Social Security in high school. Rich texted, I'm 51, never will see Social Security. Patrick, I'm 43. I don't believe for a second I'll be able to get Social Security. 1319, Dave said Social Security will be paid in egg rolls. I mean, it's just egg rolls might even be too much of a promise, Dave. But it just seems so silly to me. Let's go to Scott in the borough. He has a comment on Social Security. He's been hanging on for a minute. Thank you for holding, Scott. You're on Super Talk 99.7. What's up?
Well, you guys got my blood boiling this morning because I've never heard more stupid comments in my entire life. This attitude that you think you're not going to get Social Security is ridiculous. That right to Social Security is just as important as your right to free speech, to worship, to carry a gun. That was a contract you got when you got a Social Security number, and you paid into that your entire life. That was not a welfare program. That is a retirement program that you've made an agreement with the government with. To sit there and laugh about it.
Scott,
You've laughed all morning about, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to. Well, I hope you don't get yours because
I know stupid. I'm not going to get it. I know I'm not going to get it, Scott. We're $33 trillion in debt.
Stupid.
We're $33 trillion in debt.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
You know what? The government goes bankrupt.
Bro, we're going to get World War III before I get Social Security checks.
I get that money.
Scott, you're upset.
You know what? They make it sound. I'm upset, because people like you laugh about this, and people are paid into this their entire life. And when you get 50, when you get a little older and you get a little smarter. Oh, when I was in high school, I decided. Well, you were really smart in high school, weren't you?
I was.
That's the stupidest thing.
I was.
No, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I was ahead of the curve, Scott.
Did you make all your decisions when you were in high school?
Most of them.
When you were going to buy your house and stuff?
Sure did.
That's the most ignorant thing I ever heard in my life.
Well, I appreciate you listening.
Well, I think I'm going to stop and go to a more intelligent show.
Hey, Scott, you're always welcome here, and you are always welcome to call and disagree. You there, Scott?
Yeah, I'm here.
Why is it a dumb thing for me to think that with $33 trillion in debt that I won't get Social Security? Since I've been 18. Since I've been 18.
Is your wife pretty?
Is my wife pretty?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Well, if
she's
your wife
smoking.
is pretty, why would you think that my wife is so pretty? You know what? She's probably going to, I'm probably not going to be able to keep her my whole life. I should just plan on my wife losing me once I get older. That's so stupid. I mean,
if my wife was cheating on me nonstop, I would probably think I'm not going to hang on to her my whole life. The government has backstabbed us every step of the way. Since I've been 18, this program they've been talking about this.
Laughing and giggling about it like a schoolgirl and say, look, that right to Social Security is just as strong as my right to guns and free speech.
Hey, Scott, listen, I'm laughing about it because I think it's a joke. And you know what?
It's not a joke. It's a contract.
It's not. I didn't sign any. I didn't sign up for this. They just take it out of my check. I didn't ask them to check it. Scott, I would tell them I don't want it. Give me my money. That's what I would do if this was an agreement that I
give me a check. If they want to give me a check for every bit they've taken out, and this bull crap about, you pay 6% and your employer pays 6%. No, you're paying 12%.
Scott, I think Scott,
giving half that money, that's all your money.
Hey, Scott, can I tell you something? You know why I think you're really salty? Because I think deep down you're worried that you're not going to get your Social Security checks. And I think that you are uncomfortable. I think you are uncomfortable with that reality, brother.
I'm uncomfortable with a bunch of my peers and people giggling about it, saying, I'll never see that money. That's stupid.
Scotty, bud, it's about personal responsibility. You need to take care of your own future. You are not going to be able to rely on this government to pay your bills in the future. And I'll tell you what, Scott, I'll tell you what, with the way inflation's going, those checks are worthless. They're not going to be worth the paper they're printed on.
So, then why don't you take all the cash out of your billfold and burn it up because it's totally worthless.
Oh, yeah.
Prove that point to me.
I'm going to do that right after I get off the air, Scott.
Well, that's what you tell me. You tell me that the money that this country, that the solvency of this country is totally worthless. That's bullcrap.
Scott, how much is our national debt, Scott?
Well, we owe it all to China, so we're about to go to war with China, so what difference does that make?
Okay. All right, Scott. If you think we're going to get our you think we're going to go to war with China, we're going to get Social Security checks. I got a bridge for you in San Francisco. Appreciate the call, bud. All right. Thanks, Scott. Scott was salty.
I can't tell if Scott was upset we were laughing about it or if he actually thinks that $32 trillion in debt doesn't jeopardize our Social Security.
I honestly think Scott's mad at the reality that these checks are in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And I think he took it out on me. So, I don't know. I will be Scott's punching bag. But I also will say this. I do appreciate Scott calling.
Sure.
And I would rather have an argument with somebody than just have somebody that agrees with me. But let's go to somebody that agrees with me. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding. Steve in Nashville has a comment on Social Security. Steve, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Steve?
Well, I'm going to be like one of my favorite people, Des Dickerson, and I'm a clear thinker.
I love it.
I'm
Des
68
is
years
solid.
old. Yeah, and people don't realize when the fund was created in the 1930s, or when the Social Security was created, then there wasn't a fund available. So it didn't just magically appear. So all this time, we've been paying into the current recipients. The problem is the government didn't anticipate people living that much longer than 65, because at that time, some of them did, but it really wasn't at the age that we are now. They didn't also anticipate the baby boomers and the low birth rate we now experience. And, of course, the illegals aren't paid into it. So that's the problem that you're having right now. As far as that goes, you remember when George Bush Jr. won his second term, he had total power, and he was going to spend that capital. He had the House, he had the Senate, and the presidency. And he floated that idea of allowing some regular people to have the advantages that the government employees have of the thrift savings plan, to allow 2% of those contributions to be invested in the stock market, in a regulated fund like an index fund or something like that. Well, the problem was the rhinos in Arizona and Florida backed out on it because the people that are currently receiving Social Security were worried that they're going to lose it, but they never would. It never would have affected that, but it would have changed the financial future of people like you, Chris, and everybody at that age. I've got a daughter and two granddaughters and two great-grandchildren. So it would change the financial future of these people. And as far as we're in debt, we'll never get that money, well, government knows that old people have a bunch of guns too, and you ain't going to cut that Social Security out. But people your age need to get a little more involved with your congressmen, senators, even the Democratic ones, and start floating that plan. And what it was, it was people under 54 could participate. And that's the group, you see what I mean, that would change that and have quite a nice retirement, don't you think?
Yeah, I appreciate the info, Steve, and thanks for the call. Let's go to Dave in Hendersonville. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Dave?
Oh, not much. How you doing, Matt?
Good. How are you doing?
I mean, not Matt. I'm sorry, Chris.
It's all right. I wasn't going to call you out.
Hey, that's the second time you've been called Matt today.
That's all right. It's a compliment.
Right? Hey, I wasn't going to call you guys today, but, I'm 57 going on 58, and I'm not so sure that I'm going to get my Social Security. This guy is on there, Chris was his name, screaming and yelling at you.
Yeah, Scott.
He's got to be a Democrat because he believes everything the government's telling him.
Thanks.
If he thinks he's going to get, if he thinks Social Security is going to stay around,
yeah,
he's wrong. It's just because, and it's not a contract. I'm like you. I never signed no contract.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Remember. Just because you got a Social Security number, they give you a Social, doesn't mean you're going to get that money. And the gentleman that just called, he's right. They were talking about Bush is talking about investing your money in the stock market. I mean, really? And he thinks he's going to get Social Security is going to be around? No, not happening.
Hey,
They can't keep their fingers out of it. That's why.
Hey, you're on point. I appreciate the call, Dave. Let's go to Carl in the borough. You're next. You have a response to our friend Scott. What's up, Carl?
Well, hey, guys, I'm trying to live my life out here, and the show's so good, I just had to call in, ironically, from the borough, from Nashville, Tennessee originally. And I was listening to the guy, and I'm glad he calls in because, at one time I was belligerent. And that's because I was ignorant to the facts. And if I could just say this real quick about Social Security, as far back as 1940, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional because, if I'm not mistaken, you cannot tax and have it go to a specific purpose. There is taxation, and then and it goes all to the general fund, and you have to lobby for it. And of course, and the previous caller talked about where George W. Bush is wanting to start investing in the stock market. Well, that would have helped out a lot better because if that's not happening now, that means the Social Security fund only grows with taxation. And like you said, we are probably 34 billion, trillion, or the federal debt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why don't they just say 100 trillion? So what I'm saying is this: for that guy to have his head under a rock, to believe that we could be under an economic collapse right now, I don't understand that. That's why younger people, we need to, like the previous caller said, we need to start educating younger people and try to wean off our retirement plans from the federal government.
Yep.
And so this last thing I'll say. So I started saying this 5 or more years ago. I said, what we need to do is do this. All of the moochers, the drug addicts, everybody getting SSI because that's part of Social Security, all the people that are undeserving of taxpayer money, that are either lazy, druggies, or whatever. And if I'm insulting anybody, that's just the truth. Why don't we say this? Starting January 1 of 2025, there will be and that means new births. We will not allow one more person on Social Security and let it eventually die out. It may take 50 years, but liberty will be in this country. And that's the hard reality of it. And that's all I have to say. But I love you guys.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Carl. Thanks so much. Let's go to Chelsea, who is a first-time caller. You have a response to Scott. Chelsea, you're next on Super Talk. What's up?
Hi. Hey, I listen to your show a lot. I try to stay informed. As Denzel Washington says, if you listen to the news, you're misinformed. If you don't, you're uninformed. So we have to do our due diligence to, listen and research and read, as much as we can, not only the information, but also who it's coming from. So when it comes to Scott calling in, he can disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the beautiful thing about living in America.
Amen.
And having freedom is being able to disagree. But there's a way to do it. You can be professional. You can have some decorum. That's part of being an adult. He tells you, you need to grow up, you're laughing. When in reality, anyone that has some critical thinking skills, they know that you're not laughing at the fact that that you find it funny. It's the fact that we're paying into a pool that the government pulls from, okay? It's unchecked. The government could pull from Social Security at any time. Do they give us that information? No. That's why it's going to end up dissolving. Anyone who knows basic economics, I'm 33 years old, and it's sad that people my age or even older are still indoctrinated into believing that the government is here for you. I'm sorry, but throughout history, every government around the world has shown time and time again why they should not be trusted. I'm more for the individual. I feel like the individual is the most important minority, individual rights. But it's funny to me where people believe that Social Security is going to be around. It's going to end up dissolving because of the fact that people, what they're paying in, they couldn't live off of it.
Yep.
in today's time, in today's economy, especially like you mentioned, the inflation. Okay, so that all plays a part. It's basic economics to me. So, and many people say, oh, well, because I'm for it going away too. I'm like, it's my job, it's my responsibility. I can understand when in the beginning, where it was a good idea. I could understand where people would be like, hey, let's put this money aside. Okay, I could understand when it first come about, the ideology behind it.
Yeah, me too.
But the thing is, it turned out to be a Ponzi scheme.
100%.
Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, you pay into it. The government could pull out. You don't know what the government is pulling out at any given time, and they're not putting money back. So we're paying into the pool, but that money that we're paying in is going to other people. It's going to people who, guess what, because they're getting increases in Social Security, they didn't pay in for the increases. They're getting that from taxpayers. Okay,
Yeah.
what about people who never paid into Social Security, who get Social Security?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chelsea. You're on the ball, and I appreciate you calling in. You're welcome to call in anytime. Thank you for the call. I got a text here from 4565. Your dismissive, reductive attitude about Social Security is difficult to understand without context. You seem to be unconcerned about the confiscation of your income because you don't have any faith in the program. Are you okay with continued confiscation of your money? That's what we hear when you say when you're saying this isn't important. Yeah, I mean, I don't want my money to be taxed. I don't want the government to take money out of my check for this because I think that I'm never going to see a Social Security check. But what do you want me to do? Like, I don't know. But what realistic option do I have? I can't just say, hey, Cumulus, I'm not paying in anymore, so stop taking it out of my check.
Well, you signed the contract.
I signed the contract.
7157 asks the important question. So if I'm not going to get Social Security, it means my wife's smoking hot? Or since my wife's smoking hot, it means I'm not going to get Social Security?
I think, well, that's another thing. Like, Chris is childish. That's what Scott's yelling at me. You're childish. And then he brings my wife into it. I would like to clarify one more time. My wife, smoking hot. 1025 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee, right at home in the woods of Tennessee, right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
A sad update on the shooting that has rattled nerves on the Belmont University campus here in Nashville. And there are new developments just now breaking in the Israel-Hamas war. We'll share them with you at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were talking about the debates. We kind of got sidetracked onto Social Security. Thank you for everyone chiming in on the Super Text line. There's a lot of questions about whether or not smoking hot wives will get you Social Security checks or will not get you Social Security checks. Mac is really digging deep to try and find all the info on that. So we'll be right here with you if we find anything out on that.
Compiling data as we speak.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I mean, I don't know. Just to wrap that thought up, it's like, yes, I'm paying in on it. Yes, I don't think I'm going to get it. I don't know. What do we do? How do we change it? Nobody has any solutions for this. Just a lot of screaming and yelling, and people like myself and Mac are just like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. So
I don't want to upset Scott by my laughter.
No. Did you see that one person who said Chris laughs like a teenage girl?
Yeah.
Oh, you replied to him.
I replied. I said you might be mistaking for me.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, more teenage girl laughter next. Right now it's 10:30. Ken Weaver with the news on Super Talk.
$10:30 on the dot this Thursday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. It's been raining in West Tennessee. Looks like it's moving this way. It's something we need. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Right now in Nashville, the Belmont University student shot in the head Tuesday has died. Police say 18-year-old Jillian Ludwig was hit by a bullet as she walked in a park near the campus. Police arrested Shaquille Taylor, whom they say admitted he fired shots at a car in the area at the time Ludwig was injured. Taylor was charged with aggravated assault, but those charges could change now that Ludwig has died. Breaking news in the Israel-Hamas war. Israel has reportedly agreed to 4-hour pauses of military operations in Gaza each day for humanitarian aid and allow civilians to get out of the north. And in our nation's capital is a Senate Judiciary Committee voting today to subpoena 2 men who've been tied to lavish vacations and other gifts received by Supreme Court justices. The subpoenas target billionaire Harlan Crow, reported to be the benefactor of Justice Clarence Thomas, and Leonard Leo, who heads the Federalist Society. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an
your
honest
time is
debate.
up.
Vivek Ramaswamy last night at the GOP debate going full scorched earth. That was his message to Dems that he closed with. Just tell us who you're going to run. Please. Please tell us who you're going to run. Because we don't think it's going to be you, Joe. It doesn't seem like that. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Meanwhile, breaking news yesterday, which is lots of fun. Hunter Biden, James Biden, Rob Walker subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee. Hunter is going to appear before Congress on December 13th. James Biden on December 6th, and Rob Walker on November 29th. This is from the Post Millennial. They're saying that Comer was teasing that Joe Biden could also face his own interview. Pretty cool. The House Oversight Committee chairman also requested additional Biden family members and their associates to appear for transcribed interviews, including Sarah Biden, Hallie Biden, Elizabeth Secundi, Melissa Cohen, and Tony Bobulinski. Tony Bobulinski has re-entered the chat. I do think there was one cool aspect yesterday. As they're doing the subpoenas and announcing it, James Comer went on Twitter and just flexed on him, and he posted a video of him signing these subpoenas, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. So the subpoenas are in. Hunter Biden appearing before Congress, December 13th. James Biden, the brother, December 6th. I'm excited. It seems like we're actually getting some motion again. Matt Gaetz had a comment on the Biden subpoenas. And, he basically says what we're all thinking. Finally, we have a real Speaker of the House, and things are getting sped up.
It is about time. We fully applaud this decision to send the subpoena to Hunter and James Biden. I have been speaking with House Speaker Mike Johnson about the process and flow of subpoenas as recently as this week. And so we're glad to see it. And know this about litigation. There are times when subpoenas are altered in scope, where they are negotiated, where they are redrafted. So this is a process that, frankly, Kevin McCarthy had blocked for quite some time. And we're behind as a consequence of Kevin McCarthy's poor leadership. But now we are doing what we need to do to get on track. Breaking news, James Biden and Hunter Biden getting subpoenas to testify.
I'm excited. It seems like Kevin McCarthy did delay a lot of this. Everybody said, why are we getting rid of Kevin McCarthy? What are we doing? Well, now we have Mike Johnson, who's, only in his third week as Speaker of the House, and we have subpoenas for Hunter Biden, James Biden, Rob Walker. I'm excited. I am. And I think it goes to what Vivek said. Hey, just step aside, Joe, because it's not going to work out for you. It's just not going to work out. Mike Johnson putting in work. The work that Kevin McCarthy said he was going to do, and he never did. Isn't it weird how you get the rhinos out of the way and things start happening? Weird. So weird. Also in the news yesterday, Minnesota Supreme Court has blocked the attempt to keep Trump off the ballot. They rejected it. They said there is no state statute that prohibits a major political party from placing on the presidential nomination primary ballot a candidate who is ineligible to hold office. Yesterday, Minnesota Supreme Court rejected the attempt to block frontrunner Donald Trump from the primary ballot. Bipartisan group of Minnesota voters alleged that under the 14th Amendment, which states U.S. officials who take an oath of office are banned from future office positions if they engage in an insurrection, Trump was barred from being on the primary ballot. But in the 4-page ruling, the justices wrote, there is no state statute that prohibits a major political party from placing on the presidential nomination primary ballot or sending delegates to the national convention supporting a candidate who is ineligible to hold office. Now, the high court dismissed the case, but said that it wouldn't stop the group from bringing a petition raising their claims as to the general election. Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Chung said in a statement that the decision is further validation of the Trump campaign's consistent argument that the 14th Amendment ballot challenges are nothing more than strategic, unconstitutional attempts to interfere with the election. Seems like they do want to interfere with the election. That's all they want. They cannot let Donald Trump be on the ballot. Oh. It must drive them nuts. You know what else probably drove them nuts was last night at the RNC debate, a Trump chant broke out, and the NBC producers had to yell at them to stop.
Okay, so that was awesome, you guys, but that's the last time we're going to do that, right? Because we really, really, really want to hear from these candidates, and they were.
We really, really, really don't want Donald Trump to be the nominee, so please don't chant for Trump during the televised broadcast, please. Please. I mean, Orange Man bad. Everyone else good. They don't want the guy that didn't start new wars. They want a war hawk back in the office. Weird how that always works out. Now, meanwhile, while the debate was going on last night, Trump was holding a rally in Florida, and he was gaining more endorsements. This time he got an endorsement from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and I say good. It makes sense. There are governors endorsing Ron DeSantis at this point. I don't understand why. Even last night on the debate, the man was invisible. Did he make any noise? Did he have any quotables? Did he do anything other than stand there and look awkward? The most notable thing was him getting called out for his lackadaisical approach to China. But he's just got no momentum right now. DeSantis, his entire campaign is asleep at the wheel. And, I just don't see it that any of those nominees or the people running for the nomination last night during the debate will be able to gain any kind of momentum to unseat Trump at this point. 39 points up. And in a new national poll with CNN, he leads Biden by 4 points in an anticipated rematch. Only 25% of Americans say Biden has the stamina and sharpness to carry out the duties of president. I feel like that is high. 25%? 1 out of 4 Americans? Yikes. A new national poll conducted by CNN found that Donald Trump and Joe Biden were to have a rematch in 24. The former president would come out on top over his successor. 4-point lead. Now, they also said, according to the poll, there's very little room for either candidate to gain support. 51% of those polled said there was no chance at all that they would vote for Biden in 2024, and 48% said there was no chance at all they would vote for Trump. Current president has seen a steady decline in support from groups he once had a stronghold on. Young voters, political independents, voters of color. We see that all over the place. Now you'll see Democrats like Jasmine Crockett come out and say, "Oh, it's because of the rappers." No, it's because of the economy. And you know what? At the debate last night, did they spend any time talking about grocery prices? Did they spend any time talking about gas prices? I don't think they spent much time on the economy at all. Other than, again, Vivek Ramaswamy talking about decoupling from China. Vivek was one of the only guys out there that said, listen, we're in bad shape. Everybody here is just clamoring for war. I don't think you understand what war with China looks like. They're who we get the raw materials from. We're not making steel in Pittsburgh anymore, guys. It's made in China. We get into a war with China, they just stop sending it. Not a good look. Not a good look. Glenn Greenwald was on the Tucker Carlson podcast. Glenn Greenwald is he's pretty much a liberal, but he's more of an old school liberal in the sense of he's pro free speech. He joined Tucker Carlson for an interview on Tuesday night, And he talked about how, what we're seeing is that voters, and the polling shows, voters are seeing the injustice of these Trump cases. And it's the truth. And that's one of the reasons why I also think Joe Biden is losing support among voters of color. The whole lead up to Joe Biden's election, it was the system's rigged against people of color. The court systems are evil. The police are evil. And now you have a presidential candidate who is under the thumb of an unjust justice system. And these voters are looking at it going, oh, yeah, this is exactly what you guys told us. The court systems are corrupt, and this is unjust. Greenwald said, I think the most amazing thing about this, Tucker, is that if any leading American political had gotten even near the possibility of an indictment 10 years ago, the prospect of them running for high office would instantly be over. And here you have Trump, who's been indicted on felony charges in 4 different American jurisdictions. And not only has it not harmed him, it actually has helped him in the polls. For sure, among Republican voters, his lead has expanded every time he's indicted, but also among American independents and even groups that traditionally support Democrats almost reflexively, like black voters. 22% of in this latest poll. We've seen similar polls saying they would vote for Trump over Biden, and 42% of Latinos. Again, yes. There are too many competing influences under the progressive umbrella. African-American voters are being impacted by the illegal immigration first. You see it in Chicago, where Chicago residents are fuming over the illegal immigrants in their neighborhood. Fuming. In New York City, people are fuming over the illegal immigrants coming in. And these are all Joe Biden's policies. Couple that with the fact that the DOJ has targeted Trump. And a lot of these voters go, oh, yeah, that's exactly what you guys said that the DOJ does. Target people unjustly. Glenn Greenwald added that the polls show Americans have really come to the conclusion that our leading institutions of authority are radically corrupted, ranging from the media to the Department of Justice and the legal system, which he says are aggressively politicized. And everybody knows that. You can look at it and see it's aggressively politicized. Greenwald noted the fact that Trump has been indicted 4 times and still leading Biden is indicative of voters perceiving the prosecutions of him as unjust. He said, so now Trump is in a position where he's facing serious felony charges. I don't think they're serious in a sense that they're real, but they're serious in a sense that he'll go to jail. And yet, his lead is expanding over Biden, in part because people, I think, see the injustice of it. But also, everybody can just look at Joe Biden and see that he's not capable of managing his own life, much less the country, and there is no cure for that. Nailed it. Carlson also asked Greenwald's perspective on what he perceived to be national news stations highlighting Biden's weakness in polls. And Greenwald said, I think what they're trying to do is put pressure on Democrats and say, look, this is serious now. It doesn't look like you have any chance of winning. In a last-ditch hope to try to convince Biden to step aside. And they are. They are trying to convince him to step aside. But Greenwald contended that every legacy media company is completely petrified at the idea that Trump would win because they view him as the ultimate menace. He says, I know it's taboo. We're not supposed to ever say anything good about Trump. But the reality is, Tucker, and I think people are going to realize this more and more, that Trump was the first American president in decades to not involve the United States in a new war. Whereas you have Joe Biden, seemingly, there's a new war popping up all the time. He wants to involve the United States in every one and send all of their money overseas for them. And at the same time, they remember that the economy was vibrant and good before COVID hit. You can't lie to the American people about their own experiences, their lived experiences, as the left likes to say. And I think as the next year approaches, people are going to start to think about and compare what their lives were like under Joe Biden, where there's war everywhere and inflation and economic turmoil, and what it was like under Donald Trump. And I think they're going to be increasingly immune to the propaganda. I think they will be increasingly immune to the propaganda. I think we've seen that more and more and more. But it's so 1984 and Orwellian with the Democrat Party and the Mockingbird media. They don't want you to believe what your eyes see. Luckily, you're smarter than that, And again, what Vivek said last night at the debate when he closed with his message to the Dems, it was so on point.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an
your
honest
time is
debate.
up.
My name is Jessica Robertson, and I was like him, addicted to more. I remember things really spiraled out of control for me and him both. And we had hit rock bottom. I couldn't even function enough to keep a job. I was so isolated. He was here 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks' time, the difference that this program had made, that God had made in his life, you know, and I just remember I wanted that. I wanted that too. I was able to heal and reset. I had a great counselor, great staff members. You know, the love of God is all in this place. And that's what's helped me. And seeing people walk through those doors at first just broken, just like I was. And then a few months later, get to see that light come back on in them. You know, I know that's God working in them.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee. Right at home in the woods of Tennessee. Right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Right now in Nashville, a college freshman has died from a stray bullet. We'll tell you how that changes the investigation and new developments in the Israel-Hamas war. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One of my favorite parts of this show is being able to interact with you. I always say it, that we got Mac, we got Ken, great guys. But the most important part of our show is you on the super text line and on the phone lines. And this text proves it. 0779. Great texter. They text it all the time. Said, Chris, I have far more faith in the long-term solvency of Social Security than in Hunter and Joe ever seeing justice. So
Bingo.
I thought that's a hell of a text. And I thought we would put it up to the other super texters. What do you have more confidence in? Hunter and Joe seeing justice after some of these subpoenas being dished out? Or do you have more confidence that you'll get a Social Security check? I don't know if we'll get either. But if you had to pick one, let me know which one you think you're actually going to see. 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver standing by with the latest headlines on Super Talk.
$11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. I can tell you it is raining lightly, but it is raining west of Nashville. We need some of that. Right now in Nashville, the charges could change in the Belmont area shooting case now that 18-year-old student Jillian Ludwig has died. Ludwig was walking in a park in Edge Hill on Tuesday when a bullet struck her in the head. Police arrested Shaquille Taylor, whom they say admitted he was shooting at a car in the area at the time Ludwig was shot. Taylor was initially charged with aggravated assault. Now those charges could change with Ludwig's death. Channel 4's Ryan Breslin says Shaquille Taylor's appearance before a judge today will not be his first. He has a long, violent criminal history.
Taylor's most recent aggravated assault charge was in May of this year. The district attorney's office could not prosecute Taylor, saying the case was dismissed and Taylor was released from custody because he was found incompetent to stand trial. Even though he was deemed incompetent for mental health reasons, doctors that reviewed his case say he did not meet the standards for involuntary commitment to a mental health facility.
Jillian Ludwig graduated from Wall High School in New Jersey in June. She went to Belmont to study music business. She is survived by two younger brothers and her parents, Matt and Jessica. Israel-Hamas war. The White House says Israel has agreed to 4-hour pauses in military operations against Hamas in Gaza. The pauses are expected to be daily and start today, with announcements made 3 hours in advance. The breakthrough comes as efforts continue to free hundreds of hostages taken by Hamas during the terrorist group's October 7th attack on Israel, in which thousands of Israelis were murdered. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
11:04 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We had a great text from 0779. Texter said, I have far more faith in the long-term solvency of Social Security than in Hunter and Joe seeing justice. So I put the question to you. What do you think will happen first? That we'll get more we'll get justice for Hunter and Joe and the influence peddling, or will we see Social Security checks? You guys are funny. Most of you guys said we'll probably see Social Security checks before we see justice for Joe and Hunter. Anthony texted and he said, I have more faith in a Taco Bell fart than I do of seeing justice for the Biden crime family. It's a lot of faith.
Well, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. It said Hunter might go down, but Joe will get him out. No Biden will ever see justice. More faith in Social Security. Our justice system is broken. It's funny. You know, a lot of people don't see anything happening with the Bidens. I don't know. I do hold out a little bit more hope now that we have Mike Johnson in charge. I mean, Kevin McCarthy was in there for months, and we saw nothing but promises. Yet here we are, about 3 weeks into Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, and we're getting subpoenas for Hunter, James, and Rob Walker. So I do have some faith. I do. At the very least, maybe this will force Biden out of the race, though I don't know if that's even the right thing to do at this point. Biden is so ineffective and weak in so many different areas that it's almost a home run to be running against Joe Biden. Unless like the fix is in again. But with Joe running, you look at record as president versus record as president. It's a slam dunk for Trump. Just is. I'll tell you where I don't have any confidence is on the border. Mayorkas and Xavier Becerra, they were testifying yesterday, basically talking about President Biden's multi-billion-dollar supplemental funding requests for agencies before the Senate Appropriations Committee. Republicans went on offense, and they went after Mayorkas on border security and immigration. And during the more than 3-hour public hearing, most of the questions went to Mayorkas. A couple of them went to Becerra, but most of them went to Mayorkas. And Mayorkas got grilled. He did. Absolutely got grilled. I mean, he claims, Mayorkas claims that the Biden administration has a comprehensive strategy to manage the unprecedented migration at the border. I wonder what the comprehensive strategy is. Is the comprehensive strategy lifting up razor wire with forklifts? I don't know.
Our administration has pursued a comprehensive strategy to manage this unprecedented migration. Our strategy includes expanded lawful pathways for migration, strengthened consequences for unlawful entry at the border, removing a record number of individuals found to be ineligible for protection under the law, and increased partnership across the region to curb irregular migration.
Irregular migration, that's a new one. Irregular. Illegal, you mean?
Never heard that one before.
It's irregular migration now. Get ready for that talking point to be recycled.
Yeah.
This is irregular migration. We need to get it back to regular migration. And he left out the part about the forklift lifting the razor wire down there in Eagle Pass. It's part of their comprehensive strategy to fix migration at the border. He was also asked, is the administration working with Congress to reform these policies that are causing chaos at the border?
Is the administration open to working with Congress to include policy reforms that would deal with the underlying reasons for the surge as we consider the supplemental?
Vice Chair Collins, we need the funding that we are requesting immediately, that we are requesting in the supplemental. We have advocated from day one for immigration reform. It is unanimous that our broken immigration system is in dire need of reform.
So the answer is no. It felt like the answer is no. And then during the hearing, Mayorkas couldn't even say how many illegal immigrants have come through. He didn't bring the number with him. Unreal.
Secretary Mayorkas, how many people have entered the country illegally across our southern border since the Biden administration took office? A number.
Senator, it's over 6 million encounters at our southern border.
And how many of those 6 million are still in the country?
Senator, I can get you that information.
So do you know?
Senator, I don't want to.
Would you provide us with a number of how many of those 6 million that crossed our border illegally are still in the country?
I would be pleased to provide you with any data that you request, Senator.
Of the 2.5 million that crossed our southern border illegally last year, how many of them remain in the country?
I'd be willing to bet most of them.
Again, Senator, I'd be very pleased to provide you with the data with respect to how many removals have been effected, how many voluntary removals, how many forced removals, how many expulsions, how many individuals.
But you came to the hearing today and you don't have those numbers? You are the head of DHS and you came to this hearing today without those numbers.
That is correct.
Yeah, that is correct, sir. I didn't bring any of the data with me. Slipped my mind. Didn't think you would ask. Well, he left the data out on purpose because it looks bad. And it is bad. It's terrible what's happening down the southern border. I mean, you look at it, you look real quick. I mean, what is it? Just a couple days ago, 8 dead in Texas after a human smuggling pursuit ends in a crash. Suspected migrant smuggler and 7 others died after the driver's vehicle collided with an innocent motorist in Texas. The smuggler was transporting 5 suspected migrants fleeing from Texas Department of Public Safety and Highway Patrol troopers. I mean, the border is chaotic. They're not sending anybody home. They're sending them to the interior of the country. And Republicans are just as guilty for it too. Greg Abbott's bussing everybody all over the country. Something needs to change at the border. Something needs to change fast. But I don't know. Let's not hold our breath on it. I think we'll probably have a better chance of seeing Social Security checks for me and Mac and Joe and Hunter being criminally prosecuted before we see the border, secure. Unbelievable. And then Mayorkas dodges question after question after question, including this one. Do you think millions of people illegally entering the country creates the risk of a terrorist attack?
Do you think that millions of people crossing our border illegally creates the risk of a terrorist attack in our country?
Senator, I think that the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security do an extraordinary job of ensuring the safety and security.
That wasn't
of
the question I asked. I said, do you think that millions of people crossing our border illegally every year, 2.5 million last year, creates the risk of a terrorist? With what's going on in the world, people coming from more than 100 different countries crossing here illegally, you don't even know how many of them are still here. You came here today without that information.
Weird.
Do you think that creates a risk of a terrorist attack in our country?
Senator, you mischaracterized my testimony.
Okay.
Yes or no? Do you think that creates a risk? Millions of people are here illegally. We're not even talking about the gotaways. How many gotaways are in our country here illegally? Does that create the risk of a terrorist attack in our country?
Whoa, Senator, with all the questions. Jeez Louise. Of course it creates the risk of a terrorist attack. Mayorkas is never going to say that. Mayorkas is going to dodge those questions like he's in a game of dodgeball. It is chaos at the border. They have special interest aliens coming across, Chinese nationals coming across, Iranians. They had the special notice for Hamas terrorists that could be coming across the border. Yes, it creates the risk of a terrorist attack. Yes. That was a minute clip, and it could have been 10 seconds. Yes. Yes, sir, it does. It absolutely creates the risk for a terrorist attack. We're infinitely less safe in this country the more we ignore the situation on the border. And that's all they're doing. They're ignoring it and importing more voters. That's their game plan. Let's go to Mary. You have a comment on the border on line 1. Mary, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Mary?
Yeah, I have a question. instead of Biden wanting to put billions of dollars in funding on the taxpayers' back to help settle the crisis at the border, why does he not just reverse the executive order he signed his first day in office, let the Border Patrol being backed up by National Guard shut our borders down and protect them, and start loading up all the illegals and put them back across the border?
Well, Mary, because that would make sense. I mean, Biden is importing Democrat voters, and this is all part of the plan.
Well, your conservative patriots, Republicans, whatever you want to call them in this country, see this. But everybody's got to stand up and put a stop to it sooner or later.
Amen. I'm with you, Mary, and I appreciate the call. Thank you so much for tuning in and adding your voice to the conversation. Yeah, we do need to stand up. We do need to get mad about this kind of stuff. Imagine if a Republican got as mad about the border as Rashida Tlaib gets as mad about Palestine. Seriously. Where's the passion? Where's the urgency? Nobody has passion or urgency. Even Alejandro Mayorkas himself says he's quite hesitant to name anything that would be a policy change that could help the border. Unbelievable.
Give me 2 or 3 specific examples that we could do policy change that would make a difference.
Senator, I think the president on day one set forth a blueprint that.
We'll pick 3 out of there that you think are the best, the most meaningful.
Senator, I would be quite hesitant to rank which ones are the best, but I continue to adhere to the approach that when we're speaking of a system that has not been reformed since 1996, that we need to reform it from top to bottom.
Okay. So he doesn't have nothing, he has no ideas on what could help it. He just knows it needs to be reformed. Deep thoughts with Alejandro Mayorkas. I'm quite hesitant to list any tangible examples. All I know is it needs to be reformed. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, it's irregular, man.
It's irregular migration.
Regular.
I think my number one policy change would to be focus on regular migration. Let's get the irregular migration back to regular migration. That would be number one, Senator. Unbelievable. He won't even go on record and say that the situation at the border is a disaster.
The situation at the border, you're saying, is not a disaster.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I want some of that Kool-Aid. Let's get some blue Kool-Aid down here, guys. I want what he's having. It's not a disaster. Okay. Single group of 1,200 migrants surge across Arizona border in just one day. Tucson Border Patrol apprehended a single group of migrants that crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. An initial head count crossing at that scene on Saturday had the number at 1,200. Would you consider that a disaster, sir?
That is correct.
You wouldn't.
That is correct.
Okay. Not a disaster. Just a group of 1,200. No big deal. Unreal. The migrants apprehended in the Texas border-based sectors in 2 years exceed the population of Houston. You wouldn't consider that a disaster at all, would you, sir?
That is correct.
Okay. Not a disaster. Totally fine. I feel like Liam Neeson. There's nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Move along.
Yeah. There's no need for me to take concrete numbers to this meeting, this oversight meeting in Congress.
One of his aides was like, hey, did you want my notes? He's like, nah, I won't need them.
No, and you're fired for asking.
Yes. How dare you ask me that?
You know we hide the facts.
You don't want any of the numbers for your hearing?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. You don't think they're going to ask you any of that stuff?
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
Good grief.
You think they're gonna buy the line that it's irregular migration?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Mayorkas. I mean, he's solid.
Oh.
This is just. I mean, I laugh at a lot of this stuff because.
Otherwise, you would explode.
Mm-hmm. This is where we're at in the country. We've turned into a ridiculous clown show, as Nancy Pelosi would say.
What a ridiculous clown show.
Yes, it is a ridiculous clown show, isn't it?
That is correct.
All right.
Mayorkas to Biden. Hey, I think I'm going to bring some data and actual truth about the border.
Don't.
Okay. Nailed it. All right, 11:20. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You want to be a part of the conversation? Phone lines are open. Text line is there for you, 615-737-9986. Plus, find me on Twitter. I won't call it X. True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Charges to be modified now that a college freshman has died in Nashville. And the death of a man on Dickerson Pike last night is the fourth fatal hit and run in Music City in less than 2 weeks. Details on these stories and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Ken Weaver. 11:25. This is my second shank of the day. Earlier, I said a T on tax. and then
I was wondering about that.
T on tax.
A T on tax. I meant a tax on T.
I love that.
And then just a second ago, I said nothing to see here. Liam Neeson or Liam Nielsen. Yeah, I said Liam Neeson. It was Leslie Nielsen. I'm reaching Mandis levels of shaking.
I was getting ready to say, man, don't let it get in your head, dude. You'll be spiraling all day.
Yeah.
Super dope.
Yeah. Has the show been an unmitigated disaster? You don't think so? No, that's correct. All right, weird.
The situation at the border, you're saying, is not a disaster.
That is correct.
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
Please, disperse. Everything's fine. 615-737-9986 if you want to be a part of the conversation. The border is a mess. Let's go to Dr. Matthews. You're on next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Doc?
Well, if an illegal alien is an undocumented worker, then an illegal drug dealer is an undocumented pharmacist. Logic.
I like it.
I'll give you another one. If you think walls don't work, go tell the prisons.
Fair enough. Although there was that one guy in Pennsylvania that just scaled that wall and got out. Yeah.
But I'm talking about border walls, and you're right on the topic this morning about Mayorkas. I think it's absolutely hilarious what an ass he is, and that's only half a word.
Oh my gosh, he's such a joke. I don't know what we're doing with this guy. I do remember, if I recall correctly, Kevin McCarthy said that he would impeach Mayorkas on day one. You remember that?
Sure do.
I'm old enough to remember that, and I remember I gave him credit for it. I was like, "Cool, let's get some stuff done," and then he didn't get anything done, and then people were mad at us for firing him.
Yep, you're right on target.
Hey.
Keep on doing a good job, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, Dr. Matthews. Thanks. You can call anytime. Dr. Matthews, bringing the funny. We crowdsourced the funny here.
That was awesome.
But Kevin McCarthy said he would impeach Mayorkas day one. Day one. Oh, I'll impeach him day one, he said. Okay. Never happened. He also said that he would impeach Joe Biden. That never happened. We got an inquiry. But now Mike Johnson, who's been in there for 3 weeks, handing out subpoenas. I like that. Let's go to Joe in Hickory. He's got a comment on the border. Joe, you're next on Super Talk. What's up?
Well, this whole situation has a very simple solution. Crossing the border into the United States is an illegal act. So, how can a person who breaks the law coming into the country ever qualify for citizenship? Does that mean that the greater crime I commit, so if I rob a bank, I get to join the club and be in Congress? The congressmen, all these elected representatives, took a vow to preserve, protect, and defend the United States Constitution.
Amen.
Are they?
Hey.
So what I'm saying is that our government no longer has legitimacy. These people, these illegals need to be given a 6-month time to register, a 1-year allowance to leave the United States and apply to come back in legally so that they can be properly vetted.
Yeah.
If they're not going to do that, I don't believe in knocking down doors. But the people who defy that edict, when apprehended and discovered, put on file, and they should be deported and never be allowed in the United States, even for a visit.
Yep, I'm with you, Joe, and I appreciate the call. I think Joe's even being a little bit nice. I would go more of the Tom Homan approach. Former ICE director said if he was brought back by Trump, if Trump gets reelected, I would go this route.
I promised President Trump when he announced that he goes back, I go back, and I'm going to run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen. Because these millions of people being released in this country, 9 out of 10 will get an order removal based on immigration court data. A judge orders them removed. We're going to find them and we're going to remove them. There's no consequence. We can't fix the border. We're going to have a consequence in the Trump administration.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes with rain on the way. Right now in Nashville, the college freshman shot in the head near Belmont University on Tuesday has died. Now the charges against the suspect could be modified. Police arrested Shaquille Taylor, whom they say admitted he was shooting at a car near where Julian Ludwig was walking in a park when she was shot. Elsewhere in Nashville, the death of a man on Dickerson Pike last night is the fourth hit and run in Nashville, ending in deadly consequences in less than 2 weeks. It happened on Dickerson Pike just before 6:30. Police identified the victim as 45-year-old Jeffrey Tidwell. Police say they found the suspect vehicle. It had been abandoned, and they're processing it now to identify who the driver is. Israel-Hamas war. The White House says Israel has agreed to 4-hour humanitarian pauses in military operations daily. This is against Hamas in Gaza to allow for humanitarian reasons. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I just want to thank everybody on the Super Text line and the phone lines today. You've absolutely been making the show fire. You know, Mac hasn't really done much. Although, no, your one joke that you did earlier with the Joe Biden hotkey with the don't, so funny. So funny. I'm just giving you grief. All right, we got a couple calls I do want to get to on the border, and then we'll switch gears to the Nashville manifesto. Steven, let's go to Steven first. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Steven, you got a comment on the border?
It's more a question than a comment.
All right,
as we sit and talk about this for years on end, and as an individual, what can we do to see some change? We talk about it all day long, but there's really no information out there or any easy answers to what we can do as a person to make some changes happen.
I mean, for me, like, I don't know what you can do as an individual. It feels like this is a federal problem, but I think that getting the right leadership in makes a big difference. You know, Trump didn't have the welcome mat rolled out for these people, so they didn't come. You know, and as soon as Biden gets in and the benefits get ramped up, caravans are coming back. So I think this really goes back to Joe Biden and weak leadership. That's our big issue. We need a strong leader who is going to get back in there and build the wall. Like that's the solution. Not somebody that's going to send National Guardsmen down there to fill out paperwork. You know, like it's absolutely crazy. I don't know. I don't
agree. It's a broken system. They find us.
Oh, and
we vote, and it's that's all we can do is vote, but we don't get anywhere.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. I appreciate it, Stephen. Let's go to Brandon in Franklin on the border. Brandon, you're next. What's up?
Just got a question mainly about the protests, just throwing it out there. Of the protests that are going on about the war, what percentage of those students do you think are foreign students?
Oh, geez. I don't know what percentage. I bet you somebody has that somewhere. Mac, look that up. What percentage of the students are foreign? Although I'll tell you this. If you're a foreign student protesting in that type of way, basically anti-America, anti-Israel, like, go home. Just like their visas should be torn up. I made the point a couple of days ago. You know, if my son's misbehaving, I let it slide. I discipline him. I do what I got to do as a dad. But if his friend comes over and his friend starts misbehaving the same way at my house, well, that friend's not allowed over anymore. You know, I feel like the right to protest and all that, it should be extended to American citizens. But if you're a guest in our country, you need to behave as a guest in our country. And otherwise, leave. Go on. Because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just curious if they do anything to the status of them, if they're enrolled in school, in scholarships, if that stuff could be, taken away if they're caught doing vandalism or anything like that, or if they just treated like, a normal citizen.
It absolutely should be taken away. I don't see our federal government currently, the regime that we have, doing anything, and a lot of the university presidents are apologists. So I don't think we'll see any movement on it. But I'm in the same boat as you. I think that those visas should be ripped up. I appreciate the call, Brandon. Let's go. Let's call anytime. Let's go, Brandon. That wasn't a joke on Brandon. That was a joke on our regime messing everything up. Is this the same Scott from earlier?
This is Scott. He said he'd want to explain his point on conservatism.
Oh, Scott, welcome back to the program. You're on Super Talk.
How you doing? And set the scene for listeners who are just joining us here.
If you're just tuning in, Scott was mad at me earlier because I don't think I'm getting a Social Security check, right? The same Scott?
Right.
What's up, Scott?
Right. Well, I listen to different people, their comments and different things like that. The one, I suppose, probably the one that irritated me the most was said that I must be a Democrat and think the government's going to provide for me the rest of my life. I don't think my Social Security check is probably going to cover what my Medicare Part A, Part B, and stuff is. It's probably about 10% of what I feel my retirement income is going to be. I fully invest in myself and doing different things. It's the principle of the matter. If you when you contact the Social Security people, they'll send you a report, and they'll tell you how much you've paid into Social Security every year since you started working. I've been continuously employed from the time I was like 14, and I rode my bicycle to my first job. When I was like 15, 16, I think I had 3 or 4 jobs. Now, I've been a variety of different works, but I have continuously worked for the same company for 38 years now. And I tell you what, I don't like the fact that my company gets to choose what my health care is. They don't choose what my car insurance is. Why do they get to choose what my health care insurance is? I have long felt that people need to make decisions and are responsible for the things that they do themselves. But when they take something from me, like Social Security tax, there's income tax, there's all these different taxes, but the Social Security tax was a promise that I was going to participate in a program at such and such age. Myself, I would have much rather said, you know what, let me check the box that says I opt out and I just put that money into my own savings plan.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to just give me a payout of what I paid in, I'd take that too. But as a citizen, I feel I know the country's $30 million in debt, but us people that have been paying all our lives, we're the first stakeholders. Before anybody else gets paid in the bankruptcy sale,
Yeah, but I mean, I think earlier you took me laughing at it. I was laughing at the fact that I think the system is a joke, and I don't think that it's built to last. And
it is a joke because they haven't secured it. But I mean, so if it's a joke, then everything is a joke. Then the whole system is a joke.
Well, Scott, I think the whole system's a joke, bud.
I kind of did. To me, Ronald Reagan was the greatest president we've ever had. And, I don't consider myself a Republican. I consider myself a constitutional conservative and a Christian and somebody who's, just so strongly self-supportive that I don't like all these programs. But if I'm forced to participate, then I feel like I'm owed my dues.
No, and listen, I get where you're coming from, and I'm glad that you called back. I really am, and I appreciate you hanging out and listening to the program and listening to the other callers. But it's the government screwed this one up, and for me personally, I laugh at the idea of getting a check because I don't think that it's going to happen. It doesn't mean I'm not upset about it. It doesn't mean that I don't think it's a crime that I paid into the system that I won't get back. But
But don't you think you should defend your rights to that portion of that check just as much as you defend your rights to free speech and freedom of religion? And
I mean, there's a lot of battles. There's a lot of battles that I'm willing to wage, and this just. I don't see us coming out on top on this one. I don't think that it's a winning battle.
Well, who's the government? It's us. You say the government messed up. That's us.
I understand, but we gotta send billions to Ukraine instead. So that's what we're doing.
It's up to us to change that. I'm not in favor of that myself. Wasn't in the beginning. I think the Russian-speaking sections of Ukraine. That's all their business.
100%.
I know Putin's not the straightforward dealer over there, but people are dying. Hundreds and thousands of people are dying because a few people can't argue over these points. And these people that are dying are not the people that care about whether that province is under Russia. I mean, Russia needs a warm water port.
Yep.
And if they've negotiated with those people to get them all Russian-speaking and they want the Crimea and stuff, and they've worked it out that way, then, I hate to say why can't we all get along, but, it's Why can't we all get along? And
I am with you. And Scott, I honestly, man, I really appreciate you calling back. It means a lot to me that you stuck it out and you hung out with the show. And
I listen all day. I have these headphones on that I listen to, and I do my job. I fix things for a living, so I don't like things that are broken. And so I hear all this stuff, and I just I don't like the neglect that people put on that Social Security thing.
Hey, man, I get it.
I still got another 10 years to go before I can get to that point. But, I'm responsible with my finances and stuff. And, I get a letter every 6 months or every year. I look and I see how much I've paid into these different things. And, it's a very small amount, but I feel I don't want to just laugh it off and say, let them waste it.
I listen. I totally understand why you're pissed. I just think we disagree about the resolution. I don't think that this will get resolved. It maybe like for you, if you got 10 years to go, you may get your checks. I don't think I'm getting my checks.
Well, no. When I was your age, they said the exact same things. I heard them from the time I was 20. Oh yeah, you're going to pay this, but you'll never get it. This and that. That's complacency. That's where this whole thing, when I talked about having a hot wife, that's like saying, I got a hot wife, but she's so good looking and everything, somebody's going to take her away from me by the time I'm 50 and I get old and shriveled up and can't walk across the room. Because, no, I have faith in my wife will stick with me. We've made this commitment together. You need to see it through.
No, hey,
that's all I'm saying.
But I will point out, if they've been telling you since your 20s, you may not see it. There's 10 years left. That still may come true, Scott. I hope it doesn't.
Well,
but
I'm going to fight for it that it stay in place until they put in a different system. Like I said, when I started paying into it, I'd have much rather had a true written contract where I manage my money, and I look at my statements on a daily basis.
Hey, man, I get it. And I really appreciate you calling back. Thank you so much, Scott. It's the redemption arc of Scott today.
Yeah, calmer Scott.
Much calmer Scott. I like Scott.
That's good.
I still think we're $33 trillion in debt, and we're not going to see those checks. So, but I'm glad Scott came back. And you know what? He didn't just come back. He never left.
That's exactly right.
We appreciate Scott. Lena says, just hit it with a Dan. Very well then. Very well. Moving on. 11:49. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy is going to let us know what we can expect on the Murphy Show today. Oh, and I meant to mention this earlier. Brian Wilson, he's out again today, but he's doing great. We got word from his procedure. He's doing fantastic. And do you know what he was doing last night?
What?
He's texting the group text with me, Murphy, and Dan, and talking about news. It's like we were all of us like, Brian, take the day, man.
He can't help it.
He didn't even take a day off. He was off on the air, but he wasn't off, and that's how hard Brian Wilson works. But Matt Murphy's gonna be checking in with us next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 11:56. Chris Hand wrapping things up, passing the baton to my. Are we best friends?
We are not. We are not.
My acquaintance, Matt Murphy.
Now we're friends.
Oh.
I just don't like you trying to jump people like that. Like you tried to jump McMorey, who is also not my best friend.
What?
We're not best friends.
Okay.
I've told you. If I told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. We're not best friends.
It's fine.
Hey, Chris. How was your show today? I like that shirt.
It was great until
I mean, we're friends. We're buddies. We're pals.
All right.
But I'm not best friends with. I mean, I knock on your window at 10 o'clock at night. You don't answer.
I might answer the wrong way if you start knocking on my windows that late. What's going on, man? You got a big show today?
Yeah,
you've been bringing the heat lately.
Yeah, well, I am highly annoyed regarding the situation.
You?
Yeah, I know.
What?
I know. Hand and I have figured this out, right? Listening to Chris, Chris responds for these levels of frustration that we experience with the southern border with humor.
Yeah.
I respond with just anger, like Mark Levin level anger.
I'm like the awkward guy that jokes at a funeral to try and alleviate the stress.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better way of doing it, honestly, because you can, you'll just blow your brain. I mean, not literally, but figuratively blow your brains out. You get so stressed and frustrated about what's going on. But I am this Jillian Ludwig deal at Belmont. I want to know who's to blame. I want to know who the audience thinks is to blame. There seems to be a lot of blame going around. And everyone, it's like that meme with the Spider-Mans. Everybody's pointing at everybody. Yep. Everybody's pointing at everybody else. And I want to know who we need to blame for this 18-year-old woman's death. Because the fact that this dude was walking the street is an absolute travesty. So we'll talk about that.
It's hot garbage. It really is.
I mean, it's gross. And Glenn Funk wanting to blame the legislature, and the legislature want to blame. I mean, everybody's trying to blame everybody else, and I'm going to try to get to the bottom of it because this family deserves some answers and some level of justice.
Yeah, it's a sad story.
I mean, can you imagine? I did this morning, and after it was revealed that she had passed away throughout the night, I can't imagine being a father and getting that call.
Especially when it's there's no rhyme or reason behind it.
No, just randomly she's walking in the park and boom.
Catch a stray.
Your daughter is now dead.
It's sad.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I hope you do get to the bottom. If anybody can, it's you. I'll be looking forward to your show.
Thank you, sir.
11:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter. We don't call it X here. We still call it Twitter.
Are you going with the Twitter?
It's the Twitter, the Gram, Truth Social. All of them are at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. I'll be back tomorrow for Agenda Free Friday. In the meantime, hang out. Matt Murphy doesn't follow me. In the meantime, hang out with Murphy if you want. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I follow him.